guy and Tim Walz. They probably want this outcome because this gives them an excuse. We get all that. We get all of that. Kristi Noem's reaction has been very bad. There's no way around that. There's reports now out of the White House that President Trump is not happy with Kristi Noem, that to go on TV and say the guy is a domestic terrorist who was planning to assassinate,
to show up and attack,
to show up and massacre scores. Come on, I mean, you know, and what's emerging is an ICU nurse who is one of these social justice warriors who may or may not have been part of the Signal chat to try to mobilize these protests. But we can't pretend that something is A when it's B. We can't say up is down. There's no if to this day a lot of people are livid that an unarmed Ashley Babbitt was shot and killed at the Capitol, and rightfully so. This guy at the time of the shooting, and I know we all have the benefit of hindsight in analyzing video, they disarmed him. And apparently the gun went off accidentally, allegedly, after he was disarmed, and they started yelling, gun, gun, gun. Now, look, you don't need to tell me or convince me that when you show up to a protest with a loaded weapon and you're ready to scuffle with law enforcement, you're asking for trouble.
For trouble. Not hoping to be killed, but asking for trouble. And that's what this entire... Go ahead, you finish your paragraph because you're on a roll.
So, no, that's okay because, you know, two things can be true at the same time. The guy made some terrible decisions, but nonetheless, it was likely a bad shooting. And I've talked to law enforcement all weekend long who said we talk about shootings in terms of good shootings, bad shootings. If a gun went off accidentally that they disarmed from him, and then somebody panicked and said gun, gun, gun. I mean, Mark, it's not a good look. Not a good look.
When you say bad shooting, this is what I'm talking about. But that's okay. Let's spin our wheels for a couple on this. When you say bad shooting, do you mean horribly unfortunate because it probably wasn't necessary, or time for charges to be filed against somebody?
Oh, I don't know about charges. I think the way I analyze it, and based on a long conversation I had with a federal law enforcement official, it was a series of very unfortunate events that led to this guy's killing, and it shouldn't have happened, but it did. And look, this happens all the time, day to day. I mean, I've spent hundreds of hours riding with officers. They have a split second to make a decision, and might lead them to go home in a body bag.
Correct.
So again, we're all Monday morning quarterbacks. Ooh, let's freeze frame this, and let's slow this. And on top of everything else, you got the nightmare of AI. You got AI versions of this incident that are not helpful. Oh, haven't you seen those? They've actually added a gun.
Animations and
they've added a gun to the guy's right hand. He was holding a camera. He wasn't holding the gun.
All right.
He had the gun in the waistband. They got the gun off his body, and then after they got the gun off his body, and you can clearly see the officer with his gun in the officer's hand. And then somebody yelled gun, and blam, they fired away.
Do you feel like, since we know our own names, that the moment those shots were fired, that the mob, and sadly the mob includes the mayor and the governor, that the mob was going to go, look, more Nazis, more evil Trump, more evil ICE, more of, that since they're going to crank it up to 11. Do you feel like there was a psychological human nature thing on the part of some in the administration that says we better ramp it up similarly on the other side? We better categorize this guy not just as an unfortunate fool, but as a willful domestic terrorist. Do you feel like they just said we got to match them on the battlefield, fire for fire, because that's what got them in trouble over the weekend, because it just was not a good look?
It's hard to understand what they were thinking. I suppose that could be an explanation, that they feel like they've got to come up with some kind of a defense. I wish, and here I am, a big mouth talk show host from right off the bat, said, how about we all wait until the investigation is complete? And yes, there better be a full. Not going to do what?
Oh no, the crazy left will not wait, will not be patient, and that's why It's a lot of heavy
Well,
lifting to tell
but that's
somebody.
on them.
It is, but it also means that our fear is that they will then win the narrative, win the news cycle, because there they are going, Nazis, Nazis, Trump's the Antichrist. Well, we're being so thoughtful, which, by the way, is the right thing to be. Thoughtful, restrained, patient. But anyway, go ahead.
And that's what I said off the get-go. And within an hour of this thing, I said, let's be thoughtful, restrained, and patient. Let's wait until the investigation plays out. I mean, yes, here's the thing that's also intriguing to me. I was talking to my boss driving into work, as I often do, Phil Boyce, and Phil and I were both commiserating over the fact that it's not like these Border Patrol officers and ICE officers aren't aware that their every move is being scrutinized.
Yep.
They know they've got thousands of cameras trained at them at any given moment.
Not just scrutinized.
Oh, it's weaponized, of course.
Pursued.
But they're not unaware of it.
No.
So and that's another problem. But look, that's what an NYPD officer goes through every day of the week. When they make an arrest on Times Square or on the Upper East Side or wherever they may be, they know chances are there'll be a half a dozen people whip out their cell phones and they chronicle that arrest. And so they have to be incredibly careful. They have to be incredibly smart, and they have to go above and beyond what they would probably normally do. Look, there was a day you fought with a cop, you got the snot beat out of you, period. It's the way that goes. Those days are largely gone. I want to ask you about not only the reaction from Jacob Fry and Tim Waltz, but also media. Have you ever heard of Brian Taff from ABC6 in Philadelphia?
Can't say.
You ever heard that name?
I have not.
He's a news anchor, okay? Name is Brian Taff, Taff. You ought to see his Twitter site. I don't know how he wound up on my Twitter feed. This guy is absolutely a crazed, far-left, Trump-hating, law enforcement-hating guy, which he has every right to be. He's the news anchor for the ABC affiliate in Philadelphia.
Great.
I mean, Ari Fleischer posted something on X that said essentially, look, you can't show up at a protest armed. You got it, blah, blah, blah. It was a very reasonable take.
I saw that. It was exactly the reasonable way to be. If you're walking into a situation like this, know that it's tense. If you attract negative attention from law enforcement, make it clear you pose no threat, et cetera, and he did the opposite of that.
And Ari Fleischer isn't exactly Candace Owens, okay? So he's a pretty moderate, restrained guy, right? So you saw his post.
Yes.
Here's the ABC News anchor of Philadelphia's response on Twitter. Utterly reprehensible, but that's your thing. Is it not possible in your world to acknowledge when something is simply wrong rather than to spin it in such a way to benefit your perceived side? Not everything has two equal sides unless you see the world in two dimensions. Now, again, anybody has an absolute right to that opinion, but doesn't it strike you as bizarre that he's the nightly anchor man on the ABC6 newscast?
Listeners might say, no, that's media. No. Mike's right. This is a whole nother level of treachery. Usually this is an MSNBC anchor or some reporter slides in something snide, or one of the hosts of the morning shows, which we saw plenty of that. This is like Doug Dunbar on Channel 11 or John McKay back in the day on Channel 8. It's like, what? So
I know. I mean, evidently they've decided to drop any pretense of objectivity from their anchor man in one of America's biggest markets, Mark. I mean, can you imagine what the news coverage is like every night coming from his anchor desk?
I can now.
Think about that.
You mentioned, so what did I mean by the silver lining? You and I were texting over the weekend, and you're saying this is going to be bad, this is going to be messy. When I say silver lining, I don't mean something to make everything light and sprightly and wonderful. But if indeed, in the result of some bad messaging, Trump makes clear that the messaging needs to be better, and we have a situation maybe of a shooting that we're not all going to rally behind and say, 100% justified. We know it's 100% justified. We don't know that it's not, but we don't know that it is. That might earn us some objectivity points that Lord knows the left will never earn. That's kind of
well, perhaps. I saw your comments. I watched you closely over the weekend on social media. This, to me, is way bigger than a messaging problem. I don't think this is about messaging. Look, they're not going to go anywhere in Minneapolis. They're not going to back down. In fact, now they're
nor should they. nor
No.
should they.
No. I'm talking about the protesters.
Right, okay, but no, it's on the other side of this, because this is sort of the conversation of the day. I've heard 5, 6, 7 people I respect, and you touched on it a little as just kind of a talking point. There's a narrative that says, okay, Minnesota, we're going to give you what you asked for. We're pulling all of them out. We're going to let the illegals run wild, let you just bathe in the juice of your own crime. Happy now? It's so satisfying to say that, and it's a horrible idea.
It's a terrible idea because it's mob rule wins.
Yeah,
that means the mob gets to chase law enforcement. However, President Trump has an uncanny ability to pivot. I mean, look at Greenland. I mean, one moment it seemed like we were about to go in there guns blazing with tanks, and he said, wait a minute, I'm not going to take over Greenland. You know, there was a pivot there. Whether you agree with him or disagree with him, he's never going to surrender. He's never going to say, oh, yeah, you win, blah, blah, blah. But he does have an ability to make some changes. I don't know if you trust Eric Erickson's source. Eric Erickson claims that he's got a senior White House official who is saying that Trump is very unhappy with Kristi Noem. That was late last night that he posted.
Trump also had 5, 6 chances over the weekend to say, totally clean shooting, everything's fine, nothing wrong here.
No, he didn't say that.
And he did not do it.
He was asked. He was asked by the Wall Street.
May speak volumes. Yeah.
He was asked by the Wall Street Journal apparently late last night, and he would not commit one way or the other. He said there has to be an investigation. And look, the feds and the locals have to be on the same page.
Well, these locals hate the feds. There's the stupid Minneapolis police chief saying, well, we arrested 400 people last year and we didn't shoot anybody.
I know.
And people wonder, and Fry and Walz wonder why local Barney Fife is not allowed into this investigation. It's because he's an impediment.
Do you think it's a coincidence?
30 seconds, take us out. Governor Abbott, 805, so take us out.
Gotcha. You think that's any coincidence that Minneapolis is the only city where this is all happening?
I mentioned that to Philadelphia, Memphis, New Orleans.
Texas.
They hate Trump. Texas, where at least we have some
semblance
of sanity or something around here, I like to think.
But it's not happening anywhere else. It's only happening in lunatic.
It's not happening in Detroit or New York, for crying out loud.
It's not happening in Chicago.
No.
I mean, even so, there's a story there. All right, hang in there. By the way, I'm sick as a dog. I hope you haven't noticed. I mean, I've got allergies
Look at you.
out the wazoo. Disney's Castaway Cay has this island with trees, and it was breezy and windy, and sure enough here. So I just tried a neti pot. Oh my Lord, that was a catastrophe. Oh my gosh, I got water coming out my eyes and my nose and my ears. It didn't work.
Was that your first neti?
Oh my Lord, that'd be my last. Never doing that again.
Well, it's
all right. So happy Monday.
There's a visual. Thank you, Mike. At 10 o'clock, he's gonna rock.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.